Our chapter talk this week covers persuasive speaking. Two key learning objectives in this chapter. One, recognize the ethics involved in persuasive speaking. Ethics are central to persuasion. We must do it with the utmost integrity. And then secondly, identify how proofs are used to develop persuasive speeches. As you do your reading this week, when you see the word proof, just think of it as evidence. You use evidence to prove your point. Okay, so let's tackle our first objective. Okay, persuasive speaking. What is it? Let's start there. Now, you are all adept to informative speaking. When you inform, you have the role of a teacher, and your primary job is to educate. When you persuade, you have the role of an advocate, and your primary job is to influence. And most importantly, when you persuade, you are asking the listener to do something. You are asking them to look at something from a different perspective. You're asking them to vote for a certain candidate. You're asking them to donate something. Maybe it's to donate money. Maybe it's to volunteer at an organization. When you present your persuasive speech, your purpose statement will be an ask. And our ultimate goal then is for your listener to become a change agent, meaning they take up your cross. If you are asking your audience to volunteer at a local homeless shelter, if they become a change agent, they go and do the thing you asked. So let's just take this one step further. Persuasion, a conscious attempt to influence the beliefs, attitudes, values, and sometimes actions of listener. So you have three goals as you persuade. Okay, you'll see this little, it's not really a comic, but illustration in front of you. Your first is to strengthen the listener's commitment to your position. Your second is to weaken the commitment others have to counter arguments. And then the third is to take or promote action. So the scenario before you uses the subject of homelessness. So when the audience strengthens their commitment, they're starting to see things your way. Wow, I feel more sympathy or empathy for the homeless. Secondly, then, they're weakening, they're lowering their commitment to potentially a previous thought. I was wrong to think that homeless people don't want to work. And then thirdly, promote action. You'll see in our illustration, we have a volunteer serving soup at a soup kitchen. So this is the nature of persuasive speaking. Okay, so let's be a little more proactive with this. Ethical persuasion, what does it look like? Well, Linus and Lucy over here is what it does not look like. That can't be true because you're an idiot. That is not ethical persuasion. Ethical persuasion first has ethical goals and methods. So what you are asking of the audience is indeed important and it is good for them. Ethical persuasion avoids subtle and blatant dishonesty. We are not going to misrepresent. We are not going to use sources and hide an agenda within them. Ethical persuasion recognizes the power of language, how critically important it is to be sensitive and tolerant, to be honest and credible. And ethical persuasion learns about all sides of the issues and competing views. So in a nutshell, to speak ethically, be clear in your goal, in your ask. Use sound reasoning and evidence, quality sources. Be sensitive and tolerant. Use words and examples that are not offensive to people of different walks of life. Again, use honesty. That is your number one for credibility. Next, don't plagiarize. Again, when you use somebody else's words, be that a quote, a testimony, or even an idea, you need to verbally cite where that came from. Sometimes unintentionally, we can take an idea and say, hey, I love that. But without telling the audience where that came from, that is indeed plagiarism. Okay, so this is what ethical persuasion looks like. Let's just take that one step further and let's talk about the ad hominem. An ad hominem is a fallacy that happens in public speaking, and that is where we simply attack the person, not the argument, okay? An ad hominem means you go after the person and not the argument. So our illustration here, if I present an argument to you and you just truly don't like me, you're going to reject what I had to say and turn around and say, hey, that Liz Carlson is an absolute idiot. She knows nothing. And therefore, everything I say you have rejected because you have made it an attack on me and then devalued everything I have to say. Another example to the right here, I believe that human cloning is wrong, or I believe that human cloning is right, whatever your perspective is. Of course you would say that because you're an idiot. That is an AdHominem, and it's very flimsy persuasion. There's several quotes out there, but there's one that's great that says, you know you're doing a good job persuading when your opponent goes for an AdHominem, meaning you have presented them logic and reasoning and sound argument that they've resorted to attacking the person. Now, we do not do that as ethical speakers. Okay, next thing we're going to look at is Maguires model of the persuasive process. There are several models out there. Our text sums this up in 5 steps. And this is really just the psychology of persuasion. This is what you hope to access in your persuasive speech. First is to simply bring awareness. Let's say homelessness is your topic. You're bringing awareness. People are saying, wow, I didn't realize the population of Sioux Falls had a homeless problem. We're bringing awareness and logic. We're showing them evidence of the problem. The second step then is understanding, where we want to paint the picture of how this impacts their reality. And you'll see our illustration. Wow, I think I see it now. That person is starting to understand that we've made them aware of the issue, and now they're seeing the impacts. The next step then is agreement, where we want the audience to understand or see things from our perspective. Our illustration states, I'll buy that. Yeah, I'll buy that proposal. Essentially, they're saying, you've done a good job. This makes sense. This is well supported. Your position is justified. And then fourth, we have enactment. And that is where we present to the audience, okay, you've become aware of the problem. You understand the impacts. You're with me. Now let's do something. Let's seek enactment. And maybe in this situation, it is asking the audience to volunteer at a homeless shelter or to donate to a homeless shelter. And then our final step is integration. And this is where that change agent happens, where your listener becomes now a change agent and is indeed doing the thing you asked. They are volunteering at the homeless shelter. They are speaking to others about the cause. Whatever your ask was, when they integrate it, when they do it, you have successfully persuaded. So this is the psychology, the 5 steps a listener goes through. Now let's look at proofs. And this is probably going to be more interesting to you all as you prepare for your persuasive speech in upcoming weeks. Proofs, again, are evidence. How you justify, how you prove to the audience that you have an ethical, a solid position. There are 4 types of proofs that we most often use in persuasive speaking. And what this does, in my opinion, it appeals to all people and how all people are wired. So in your persuasive speech, you want to use a variety of proofs because somebody might be very persuaded by statistics and facts, while the next person might be persuaded by stories and the emotional component. So let's quickly run through these and then I will provide examples. First is logos. The root word there is logic. Proof, evidence, founded in logic and reasoning. Second then is ethos, and ethos is authority. It is trust. It is speaking from a place of knowledge. Next is pathos. Pathos, this is a Latin word rooted in emotion or belief. This is where the audience is moved when their heartstrings are tugged on with emotion, where you as a speaker convey the human dimension, the impacts of the cause. And then lastly, you have mythos or mythos, however you pronounce that. Mythos is proofs or evidence rooted in tradition, rooted in values, rooted in history, common values that are popular, that most people subscribe to. So let's take a look at each of these. The first, let's look at logos. Again, this is logic and sound reasoning. I have a couple advertisements up here and I want you to look at them and find the logic, find the reasoning. Okay, first I have pop chips, and you're going to see some statistics on calories. This is how many fried chips you can eat. This is how many kettle chips you can eat. And this is how many pop chips you can eat according to the data. So this ad is using both logic and reasoning, because most of us would say, well, I'd like the bigger stack if I'm going to consume 100 calories. The next ad is Bounty, the quicker picker upper. 2 times more absorbent so you can use less. Okay, the leading ordinary brand on the left, after 2 sheets, you quit. Bounty on the right, 1 sheet won't quit. So again, we're using some numbers, we're using some logic, but we're also using reasoning. So the inference here is, wow, I get more done with less. I spend less money. I waste less resources. These are appeals to logic rooted in logos. Next then is ethos. Okay, ethos once again is that trust, that authority. We see the beloved late Kobe Bryant here. He, most valuable player, MVP, he is advertising vitamin water. As you can imagine, Kobe probably has some star power, some expert value that he brings to hydration, right? That if Kobe uses vitamin water, it's good for me too. On the right side, we have a dentist, a friendly looking dentist, holding up some toothpaste, the brand more dental professionals recommend. Again, that is rooted in knowledge and trustworthiness. Most of us believe our dentist would not lead us astray because he wants us to have healthy teeth. Okay, so these things are rooted in trust, sources you trust, and authority, people who are experts on the subject. Next, we have pathos. Again, pathos targets emotions and beliefs. It's displaying the human dimension of the problem or the solution. On top, we have a St. Jude Children's Hospital advertisement. Give thanks for the healthy kids in your life and give to those who are not. Now, we could probably make the argument that this does pull on some mythos too, but thankfulness, gratitude is an emotion. And it's saying, wow, look what I have. But there's many people who have kids in their lives that are not healthy. And that emotion then prompts you to take that action step to give or to donate. And then the second example is a little bit lighter. Whoops, I got ahead of myself. Coca-Cola, open a Coke, open happiness. They are linking that joy, that happiness to their product, that Coca-Cola. And then the last appeal or proof we are going to look at is mythos or mythos. I'm stretching my screen here so you can see the whole thing. Okay, mythos is tradition. It's popular values. Many times we can look to groups to support that. Now, I've pulled a few examples here. We see the iconic "We Can Do It" poster. This is appealing to a group of strong women who pulled themselves up by the bootstraps in World War II. Some served our country, some went to work for the first time and kept the home front burning, kept the industry going. We can do it. That is appealing to women, women of strength and power. On the upper left, we have Dove, the Real Beauty Pledge. This is appealing to the concept that everyone is beautiful, regardless of size, regardless of color of skin. Beauty comes in many shapes and sizes. That is real beauty. So many people can jump into that value or that concept or belief. And then down on the lower left, we have a Budweiser advertisement. Budweiser steps up to the plate to honor American heroes. And you can see the flag wrapped around the shoulders of 3 young fellows. This is an appeal to patriotism, that tradition, the concept of our soldiers, our American heroes, so needing and meriting that worth and that value. Examples of mythos, okay? To use this, you use history, symbolism, and traditions. So to wrap up, we talked about ethics involved in persuasive speaking. Without ethics, we indeed cannot be persuasive. And then lastly, we looked at proofs, how proofs are used to develop persuasive speeches. Again, you want a variety because what is persuasive to one may be different than what is persuasive to the next. Thank you.